My wife's last lucid evening lives in my memory with the clarity of a polished mirror. Carol lay propped against her pillows, her fingers laced loosely with mine, the soft hum of the hospital monitor keeping time with her shallow breaths. She turned her head ever so slightly, her eyes bright despite the shadows beneath them. "Rob," she whispered, "if you ever build that house by the ocean, make it a place full of music, sunlight, and peace. Promise me that." I made that promise. And 2 years after she slipped from this world, that promise was the only thing powerful enough to haul me through each morning. So I built her sanctuary, a $3 million coastal home, perched on the cliffs of La Jolla, with floor-to-ceiling windows that swallowed the horizon whole. The master bedroom was positioned so the sunrise landed exactly on the pillow she would have slept on. Her piano sat by the largest window, overlooking the tides she adored. The garden was lined with her favorites, white roses and lavender, because she once joked they were the only plants she couldn't kill. The house wasn't luxury. It was devotion carved in stone and glass. I had lived in it for barely 2 weeks when the first crack in my peace arrived. Not from a storm, not from an earthquake, but from my son-in-law. My phone screen lit up with his name, Damien Carter. I shouldn't have answered, but habit, and the faint hope that my daughter might be calling through his number, made me press the button. "Yeah," I answered, keeping my voice neutral. His voice exploded out of the speaker, brash and booming, carrying that familiar arrogance that always made me feel like I was back working construction with some foreman barking useless instructions at professionals. "Old man, listen up," Damien said without a shred of greeting. "We're heading over. Like right now. There's about 20 of us. Get the beds made, stock the fridge, prep towels, the works." I blinked. The audacity was so large I had to sit with it for a second. 20 of you?" I repeated quietly. "Yeah," he snapped. "We're staying for 3 weeks. You hearing me, or are your hearing aids dead?" "I don't wear hearing aids." He knows that. I stared around the living room, sunlight flickering over Carol's favorite rug, her framed music sheets still resting on the piano. The oil painting she fell in love with at a street fair. All of it warm, all of it sacred. And here was this man, who once told me my grieving was dramatic, talking to me like I was the caretaker of a resort he'd already paid for. My knuckles whitened around the armrest. He kept going. "We're 45 minutes out. Try not to screw anything up before we get there. Okay?" His tone wasn't just disrespectful. It was ownership. As if the moment he married my daughter, I turned into a relic he could shove into a corner. I closed my eyes for one breath. One long, steady breath. When I opened them, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't angry. Anger burns and then fades. What settled in me was colder, cleaner, purpose. "Damien," I said in an even, almost gentle voice, "are you sure this trip is a good idea?" He barked a laugh. "Of course it is. It's a family house, Rob. You're not gonna sit alone in a giant mansion like some crypt keeper. I'm doing you a favor bringing life into this place." Carol would have laughed at that. She used to say Damien's life was just noise with a pulse. "All right," I said. "Come on over." He didn't hear the undertone, the calculation, the door closing. Yeah, he muttered. "Try to have the place ready when we get there." Then he hung up. I didn't move for a long moment. I sat with the kind of quiet Carol used to fill with soft piano melodies and humming. I imagined her now, leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, amused and unimpressed by Damien's delusion. "Don't let him bully you," she used to say. "Spines are like bridges. They're meant to hold weight." I stood up and looked around my home, and an engineer's instinct kicked in, the instinct to protect a structure from collapse. First move. I walked to my desk and picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over a contact labeled Leo Management. I clicked it. "Leo Management, this is Vanessa speaking. How may I help you, Mr. Miller?" "Hello, Vanessa," I said, my voice steady. "I have a luxury property available for an immediate 3-week rental. Beginning tomorrow morning. High-end clients only. Privacy mandatory." There was a beat of surprise. "Tomorrow morning, sir? That is highly unusual." But we can do it. And I want a bonded security team on site for the entire stay, I added. Absolutely no one is allowed in without being named in the rental contract. No exceptions. Not even family. She hesitated only a moment. We can arrange that, Mr. Miller. Good, I said softly. Send the paperwork to my email. I'll return it within the hour. As I hung up, a calmness washed through me. Not triumph, not spite. Something deeper. A structural certainty. Damien thought he was marching into paradise. He had no idea he was walking into a blueprint I had drafted the moment he opened his entitled mouth. For the next 45 minutes, while the sun dipped lower and painted the walls gold, I moved through the house with methodical precision, packing photographs, covering Carol's piano with its linen cloak, locking away heirlooms in the stormproof vault I built the year we broke ground. Piece by piece, I tucked away the soul of this home, not because I feared damage, but because I refused to let anyone who disrespected my wife breathe in the warmth she had built. By the time the last photo was sealed away and the vault door shut with a deep metallic thud, the house had transformed. It was beautiful, yes, but hollow, a furnished shell awaiting temporary inhabitants. As I straightened up, I heard it, the rumble of multiple engines rolling over the gravel driveway. They were early. Of course they were. I took one last look at the quiet, neutralized house. The storm was pounding at my gates, and I, the old man, stood calmly in the center of the battlefield I had designed. The first piece of the lesson was set. But Damien wasn't the only one about to learn something. The engines grew louder, multiple vehicles grinding over the gravel with all the subtlety of a stampede. I stood at the top of the staircase for a moment, listening to the rumble vibrate through the walls. My home had always been a quiet, gentle place. Now it felt like a fortress bracing for impact. A sharp, echoing knock slammed against my front door, once, twice, and then a long, impatient press of the doorbell. Before I could reach it, the handle twisted, and the door burst open with the kind of force that dented the drywall behind it. And then they came. A wave of people, no, not people, a herd. At least 30 of them, despite Damien claiming about 20. They surged inside with the chaotic energy of a school bus emptying on the last day of term. Loud voices, booming laughter, slurred jokes, backpacks thrown across furniture, beer cans cracking open before they even said hello. Damien strutted in last, carrying a bright red cooler. A swaggering grin stretched wide across his face like he thought he owned the air in the room. "Old man," he yelled, clapping me on the shoulder hard enough to jolt me. "Party's here. Hope your fridge is stocked." He looked around, admiring his kingdom. He didn't notice the missing photos. He didn't notice the simplified bedding. He didn't notice the stripped bathroom shelves. Entitlement blinds the eye far more than darkness ever could. Behind him, a boy barely in his 20s threw himself onto my white linen sofa, feet up, sand still stuck between the grooves of his flip-flops. A girl dropped her dripping iced drink right onto my handcrafted coffee table. No coaster, no care. Another group went straight to the kitchen, raiding the fridge like starving scavengers. "Yo, this dude's got imported beer," someone shouted. They weren't guests. They were squatters with Instagram accounts. Olivia slipped inside behind them, eyes lowered, her shoulders pulled inward like she was trying to disappear inside her own body. For a moment, those eyes flicked to mine. There was apology there, quiet, fragile, but still real. She opened her mouth, but Damien's voice bulldozed over her. "Babe, come check out the view from the master," he called from upstairs. "This whole room is ours." He didn't ask. He didn't suggest. He claimed. Olivia flickered with hesitation, then wilted toward the stairs, pulled like a leaf caught in the undertow of Damien's force. Her apology evaporated into the noise. I said nothing. I sighed inwardly, the way an engineer sighs when he sees a structure leaning, knowing exactly where the fault lines are. Hours passed. Voices rose. Music thumped from a small portable speaker one of them brought. They tossed beer cans, made toasts, blasted videos on their phones, all while calling my house sick, crazy, legendary. No respect. Not even intent. Just consumption. Around late afternoon, the malfunctions began. The sound system. Damien strutted over to the wall-mounted control panel like a general approaching a battlefield. He thought he had already conquered. "Watch this," he bragged. "This house has a beast of a sound system." He tapped the touchscreen. Nothing. Tapped again. Still nothing. He frowned, poked harder, dragged his fingers across it like he was trying to scratch a lottery ticket. "Dude, is it broken?" someone asked. "No," Damien snapped. "It's probably just some old people setting. These systems always need updating." 20 minutes later, after failed Bluetooth attempts, failed Wi-Fi pairing, a factory reset that did absolutely nothing, and several muttered curse words, he glared at me. "Rob, what the hell did you do to this thing?" I gave him a sympathetic shrug. "Oh, that new tech stuff? I barely know how to turn it on," I said innocently. "It confuses me." His pride took a direct hit. The Wi-Fi. The house had full signal. That part wasn't the problem. The speed, however, well, let's just say that a turtle dragging a boulder could stream videos faster. Every phone froze. Every app crashed. Every video glitched. Their digital world crumbled. "Dude, what kind of internet is this?" someone whined. Damien threw his hands into the air. "I don't know. Maybe the old man bought the senior citizen plan." His friends laughed, but their irritation was rising like a tide. Hot water. That evening, showers began. Or tried to. Steam lasted 5 minutes? Maybe 6. Then came the yelps. "The water's cold. Why is it freezing? Dude, my shampoo didn't even rinse out." I hid my smile behind a cup of tea. A quiet house can be sabotaged loudly, but the most effective sabotage is silent. Tiny adjustments, simple switches, choices made discreetly in the basement. The next morning, hangovers hit like flying bricks. They stumbled out of bedrooms. Messy hair, bloodshot eyes, complaints tumbling from their mouths. "Where's the espresso machine? Why won't the stove turn on? This toast tastes like cardboard. Why is the TV buffering every 5 seconds?" Meanwhile, I sat on the patio with my book, sipping my tea, enjoying the sunrise. Every so often, someone would approach me with a complaint. "The Wi-Fi is broken, old man." "Oh dear," I said gently. "Did you try turning the phone sideways? The stove won't heat." Maybe it doesn't like that pan. Some stoves are picky. "The coffee tastes like dirt." "Really? Must be the brand." My Carol used to pick out the fancy stuff. I wasn't rude. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even annoyed. I was simply letting them marinate in the discomfort they created for themselves. And the cracks in Damien's authority were beginning to show. His friends were whispering, annoyed, disappointed, mocking him lightly. "Some beach house, bro. My dorm has better Wi-Fi. Thought you said this place was luxury?" Every comment dented Damien's ego a little more. He paced the living room like a trapped animal, eyes darting, jaw clenching, searching for something. Anything he could control. Something to reassert dominance. Something to restore his image. And I could see the moment he found it. He locked onto an object sitting quietly on the mantel. An object he should have never touched. Chaos has a rhythm if you listen closely enough. That morning, the rhythm was sloppy and loud. Thudding footsteps, groans of hungover regret, clattering cups, curses about cold showers and bitter coffee. I sat in my armchair, quietly watching the disorder swirl while pretending to focus on a paperback. But in the reflection of the glass window beside me, I monitored everything. That's when I noticed them. 3 of Damien's friends, restless and bored, tossing around a foam football in the middle of my living room. The very room Carol once filled with soft music and warm laughter. Olivia made a timid attempt. "Guys, maybe not inside?" They ignored her completely. She fell silent again, and the boys kept playing. The ball sailed lazily from one side of the room to the other, bouncing off walls, grazing lamps, nearly knocking over a vase. But the moment came when the thrower, baseball cap boy, decided to show off. He launched the ball in a wide, dramatic arc, shouting, "Heads up!" The receiver stumbled, reached, missed. The foam ball hit his fingertips, then ricocheted off at an angle that made my stomach drop. Time slowed. The ball spun once, twice, then collided with the small ceramic sculpture on the mantel. Carol's sculpture. The one she made in a local pottery class because she was tired of watching YouTube tutorials and wanted to create something real with my clumsy hands. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about it was perfect. The glaze dripped unevenly. The shape leaned a bit too far left. She joked it looked like a seashell that lost its way, but she was so proud of it. She placed it on the mantel herself. And now, tipped, teetered, then fell. The crack it made against the stone hearth was soft, yet devastating. A tiny sound with the weight of a cathedral collapsing. Silence followed. Instant, heavy, absolute. The boy who missed the catch froze, hands hovering uselessly. Baseball cap boy stared at the colorful shards on the floor, his mouth slack. No one breathed, because everyone, even those who didn't know the sculpture's story, felt the wrongness of what just happened. For a few seconds, the sound of the ocean outside was the only thing moving. Then Damien broke the silence. Not with apology, not with concern, but with a loud, dismissive laugh. "Oh, come on," he barked, strolling over. "It's just a piece of clay, old man." He nudged a shard with his shoe. "Relax. I'll buy you 10 of them. 10. As if what she made was replaceable. As if memory could be purchased. As if the value was in the object instead of the hands that shaped it. Something went still inside me. Completely still. I looked at him. Really looked. His smirk. His arrogance. His utter inability to understand the sacredness he had just trampled. I said nothing. The expression on my face must have unnerved him, because a flicker of uncertainty crossed his eyes for the first time since he walked in. He expected shouting, expected anger, expected anything he could argue with or belittle. Instead, he got absolute quiet. Quiet is far more terrifying, because quiet means control. I turned and walked away. "Hey!" he called after me. "Hey, old man, where are you going now? Don't be dramatic." Still, I didn't answer. I closed the study door behind me. A soft, definitive click. The time for tolerating the invasion was over. Now it was time to execute the next phase of the plan I'd laid out carefully the moment Damien told me he was coming. That night, I didn't sleep, not because of noise, though the noise was unbearable, but because clarity has a way of keeping a man wide awake. I sat in the guest room, listening to drunken laughter, slamming doors, singing at 2 a.m., the unmistakable sound of someone vomiting near the kitchen sink, and the thud of someone tripping over a coffee table. Every crash, every holler, every obnoxious roar strengthened my resolve. By dawn, the house had quieted, but peace never returned. It was waiting for me on the back patio, the sunrise blooming over the sea, the waves painting gentle lines of foam across the sand. I brewed tea on my old hot plate, simple, quiet, familiar, the calm before the inevitable collapse. The strangers arrive. Around 9 a.m., the first of Damien's friends stumbled out of a bedroom, barefoot, half awake, wearing wrinkled shorts and confusion. He headed to the kitchen for water, stopped dead, then blinked several times, as if he thought he was hallucinating, because standing in the living room, in the center of the previous night's disaster, empty bottles, crushed cans, sticky floors and all, was a perfectly composed, elegantly dressed family of 4. A man, a woman, 2 children. The parents wore understated luxury, quiet wealth, not Damien's loud, showy version. The children stood neatly beside them, taking in the mess with wide but polite eyes. Next to them stood Leo, in his sharp navy suit, holding a leather portfolio. The hungover boy stared at them like he'd stumbled into the wrong movie set. Soon, more of Damien's guests trickled out. One by one, their jaws dropped. No one spoke. No one understood. The serene Tanaka family stood in a house full of trash and spilled beer like they were touring a museum. Silent, observing, dignified in the midst of chaos. The contrast was stunning. A few whispers began. Who are they? Is this like his parents or something? What's happening? And then, at last, the king of the mess made his entrance. Damien lumbered down the stairs, stretching, yawning, smirking, expecting to be greeted by admiration. Instead, he walked into a silent, judgmental tableau. His smile fell. His swagger melted. Rage filled the void. "What the hell is this?" he snapped, marching forward. "Who are these people, and why are they in my father-in-law's house?" Leo stepped forward with a graceful professionalism Damien would never understand. What happened next would transform the entire house. Because Damien was about to hear the 12 words that would obliterate everything he assumed he controlled. Damien's confusion slowly twisted into outrage. His pride, already cracking since the cold showers and broken Wi-Fi, now shattered completely in the presence of strangers calmly surveying the ruins of his vacation. "Who are you people?" he barked, pointing aggressively at the impeccably dressed family and at Leo. "Why are you in my father-in-law's house?" The room went dead silent. Mr. Tanaka, unbothered by Damien's aggressive posture, offered a small, polite bow. "We apologize for the intrusion," he said in gentle, accented English. "We were told our rental began this morning." Rental. The word dropped into the mess-filled room like an anvil. Damien blinked. "Rental? What the hell are you talking about? This isn't a rental property, man. We're here on vacation." Leo stepped forward, posture straight, expression composed. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," he said with professional calm. "My name is Leo, property manager for this estate. The Tanaka family signed a 3-week lease for this home earlier today. They have full contractual rights to occupy it." There it was, the sentence that cracked the foundation of Damien's delusion. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Damien scoffed. A loud, mocking sound that only insecure men seem capable of making. "You're joking, right, Elise? This is a family house. The old man invited us here himself. That contract? Fake. The family? Probably actors you hired to make some point. Well, I'm not falling for your little trick." Leo didn't even flinch. He opened the leather portfolio and pulled out several crisp documents with embossed seals, clipped neatly together. "This," he said, tapping the top page, "is the official rental agreement, signed by the trustee of the property. The Tanaka's payment has cleared. Their security deposit is secured. Their lease begins today." Damien didn't look at the contract. He didn't need facts. His ego only understood dominance. "You can't do this," he snapped, rounding on me. "Rob, tell him. Tell them this is a mistake. Tell them you didn't rent out the house." Everyone turned. The partygoers who once cheered for him now clung to the walls, silent, like children watching a teacher discipline a bully. The Tanaka children watched quietly, their faces unreadable. Leo stood still, waiting. I took a slow step forward. "Damien," I said gently, "you've made an assumption, a large one." He glared. "You assumed this house was mine to give, that I could simply hand you the keys like some hotel clerk, that I owed you something." "It is your house," he spat. "Everyone knows that." "No," I said, my voice even. "It isn't." I let the silence deepen, let him lean into the moment before I spoke again. "This home is owned by the Carol Miller Living Trust, the trust created in my late wife's name. I am its trustee, and as the trustee, I am legally required to manage the property in a way that protects its value and benefits the trust." Blankness crossed Damien's face. He didn't understand trusts. He barely understood responsibility. So I simplified. "I cannot host a 3-week drunken party for 30 people without violating my fiduciary duty," I said calmly. "But I can lease the property for $120,000 to responsible tenants." That number hit him like a slap. $120,000? Someone whispered behind him. Another murmured, "This place rents for that much?" The room shifted. Power changed hands, and Damien felt it. His voice cracked with the weight of panic as he searched for footing. "You can't kick us out. Olivia has rights. We have rights. We're family. I opened my mouth to respond, but someone else beat me to it. A voice sharp enough to slice stone. Actually, the voice said, "She doesn't." Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway, poised like a blade in a courtroom, was Evelyn Reed, my attorney for the last 15 years. She stepped into the room with the confidence of a surgeon entering an operating theater, her heels clicking decisively against the floor. Damien blinked hard, unsure how this new opponent materialized out of thin air. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. Evelyn set her briefcase down on the cleanest remaining surface and gave him a cool, professional smile. The kind that said, "You're not the first arrogant man I've dealt with today." "My name is Evelyn Reed," she said. "Legal counsel for the Carol Miller Trust." Damien swallowed hard. Leo gave her a respectful nod. They were clearly working in perfect coordination, exactly as I'd planned. Evelyn opened her briefcase, withdrew a thin document, and held it up. "Olivia Miller signed this 2 years ago," she announced, her voice carrying clear authority. "The Gifted Funds and Asset Protection Agreement." Olivia, who had been shrinking smaller and smaller behind the kitchen island, froze. Her hands trembled. Her eyes widened, filling with dread. She remembered, maybe not the exact words, but the moment, the check, the excitement, and the signature. Evelyn continued. "This agreement states that in consideration for the $250,000 deposit gifted to Olivia and Damien for their first home, and in exchange for Mr. Miller co-signing their mortgage, Olivia waived any future claim to use or occupy this residence." She let the words settle like falling stones. In simple terms, Evelyn concluded, she legally gave up her rights to ever stay in this house. A few gasps rippled across the room. Damien's jaw dropped. "You signed what?" he hissed at Olivia. "You didn't tell me anything about this." But Olivia could barely breathe. Her eyes filled. Her lip quivered. Her voice cracked as she whispered, I didn't think it mattered then." Evelyn softened her tone just a hair. "You accepted the money," she said gently. "You accepted the mortgage help. And you signed away your occupancy rights. This house is not yours. It is not legally available to you." Damien's control, already shaky, collapsed completely. "You tricked us," he shouted at me, voice breaking. "You planned this. You set us up." "No," I said quietly. "I protected my home." The 2 security officers stepped inside then, calm, controlled, unmistakably authoritative. A slow, crushing realization swept across Damien's face. He was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and worst of all, he had done it to himself. The moment the security officers entered, the energy shifted like a tide pulled back by an unseen moon. Damien, who once strutted through this home as if he owned the foundation it stood on, suddenly looked small. Not physically. His chest still puffed out in that artificial bravado, but small in every way that mattered. His partygoers retreated to the corners of the room. None of them wanted to be associated with the chaos anymore. Not when legality was involved, not when suits and contracts had replaced beer cans and bravado. But the person who looked the smallest, heartbreakingly so, was Olivia. She had always been quiet, timid in the way someone becomes when they spend too many years shrinking themselves to fit someone else's shadow. I had seen glimpses of her strength as a child, her stubborn streak, her fierce loyalty, her determination to fix everything even when she was barely big enough to hold a toolbox. But somewhere along the line, somewhere in the years of dating, marrying, and surviving Damien, her voice had been smothered. Until today. Today, she was watching her life crumble. Today, she was watching her husband unravel. And today, she was watching the truth of every choice she'd ever made come full circle. Her eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the fragile kind. They were heavy, weighted with exhaustion and clarity. Before anyone could speak further, she stepped forward. "Dad?" she whispered. It hit me harder than any insult Damien could ever throw. She hadn't called me Dad in months. Damien lunged beside her, jabbing a finger in my face. "No, don't talk to him. He's manipulating you," He planned all this from the start. Olivia flinched, not at my presence, but at his. Damien, she said softly. Please stop. He froze. Not because she asked him to, but because she'd never said it like that. Not with that tone. Not with that spine. Her hands trembled, but her voice steadied. You embarrassed him. You disrespected him. You treated his home like a playground. It's our home. Damien snapped back. No, she said louder now. No, it's not. A storm brewed behind Damien's eyes. You're taking sides? This isn't about sides, she said. It's about dignity. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. I watched you smash his rules for years. I watched how you talked to him. How you talked to me. She swallowed, her breath shuddering. You made me believe this was normal. Damien laughed. A short, sharp bark. You're blaming me now? Really? After everything I've done for you? Olivia's face shifted, pain, then resolve. Damien, everything you've done for me came with chains attached. Every gift came with control. Every promise came with conditions. He stepped closer, towering over her. So you're just going to stand there and let them treat us like criminals? Her voice softened. No, she said. I'm going to stand here and treat myself like someone who deserves respect. The room went silent. She turned to me. Dad, I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. For not listening. For not seeing how much you were hurting. For letting him treat you that way. For letting him treat me that way. Her apology carved something open inside me. Something I had buried under practicality and trust documents and quiet cups of tea. You're my daughter, I said gently. You don't owe me perfection. Damien let out a frustrated roar. Enough. Olivia, get your things. We're leaving. Together. Now. She looked at him, not with anger, not with fear, but with a stillness that suggested a decision had been made long before this moment. No, she said. Damien blinked. No. She turned away from him and faced Evelyn. Can you show me the contract I signed? She asked softly. Evelyn nodded and handed it to her. As Olivia read it, her face crumpled. Slowly at first, then completely. I didn't realize, she whispered. I was so excited about the house, about starting a life. I didn't realize what I was giving up. Damien scoffed. Oh, come on. It's a piece of paper. You didn't know what you were signing. He tricked you. No, she said, meeting my eyes. He didn't trick me. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't want to pay attention. That honesty, raw and painful, landed with the weight of an anchor. She folded the contract gently, her hands shaking. Then she turned to Damien again. This isn't his fault. This is mine. For letting you make every decision. For letting you speak for me. For letting you control my life. Damien grabbed her wrist. We're leaving. The security officer stepped between them instantly. Sir, he warned, do not touch her again. Damien recoiled as if struck. Olivia stared at him, really stared. Damien, she said quietly. I'm not leaving with you. He laughed again, louder, more unhinged. You think you have a choice? You think you can make it on your own? Without me? You need me, Olivia. You always have. But the look on her face said otherwise. No, she whispered. Not anymore. Something inside him cracked. Rage, desperation, disbelief all tangled together. Fine, he spat. Stay with them. Stay with your precious daddy. See how long you last. He turned to storm out but paused, spun back around, and his eyes locked onto something on the wall. The framed wedding photo of him and Olivia. His last shred of ownership. His symbol of dominance. His proof that he belonged here. He strode toward it. Too fast. Too aggressively. Evelyn and the officer stiffened. I felt the shift before it happened. The tightening of his jaw, the twitch in his fingers, the calculation in his eyes. He was about to do something stupid, something violent, something that would change everything that followed. For a split second, the room held its breath. Everyone sensed it. The shift in Damien's posture, the wildness flickering in his eyes, the sudden, reckless desperation that clings to a man cornered by his own arrogance. He lunged toward the wall where the framed wedding photo hung. Their smiles, once bright, hopeful, naive, looked back at him from behind the glass. A memory, a symbol, or, to Damien, an anchor he refused to cut loose from. "Damien, don't," Olivia whispered, stepping forward. But anger had swallowed him whole. He grabbed the frame with one hand, ripping it off the wall so violently the nail shot across the room. The entire crowd jolted. He held the frame aloft like a weapon. "You want to take everything from me?" he snarled. "Fine. Then you don't get to keep this either." Before anyone could stop him, he hurled the picture toward the floor. It didn't just break. It exploded. Glass shattered across the hardwood in a spray of glittering shards. The wooden frame splintered. The photograph inside tore down the middle, the crease running straight through Olivia's face. She gasped. A sharp, wounded sound that sliced straight into me. She dropped to her knees without thinking and began picking through the sharp fragments with shaking hands, trying desperately to salvage pieces of the torn image. Blood appeared almost instantly. Thin red lines across her fingers as she handled the shards without care for herself. "Olivia, don't." I moved toward her, but she shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face as she collected the ruined picture. "I just want to save this," she whispered. "I just want something left." Damien stared at her, and for the briefest moment, something flickered across his face. Not regret, not empathy, possession. He saw her pain, and instead of softening, it seemed to feed the darkness inside him. "That picture wasn't worth anything," he spat. "Just like this house. Just like your dad's little games. Grow up, Olivia. None of this matters." She looked up at him then, eyes full of pain, yes, but also something stronger. Clarity, resolve, awakening. "It mattered to me," she said quietly. The room held still. One of the security officers stepped forward. "Sir, you need to step back from her." But Damien ignored him. He moved closer, pointing down at Olivia like she was a misbehaving child. "You're pathetic," he hissed. "Crying over a stupid picture? You used to be fun. You used to be on my side. Now look at you, crawling around on the floor." "Damien," I warned softly, "don't speak to her like that." He swung toward me, rage radiating off him in waves. "What are you going to do?" he challenged. "You think you're the hero here? You think you're the good guy? You're just an old man with a house and a god complex." "Sir," the second officer said firmly, "you need to step away." Damien ignored him again. His voice rose, not because he wanted control but because he was losing it. "All of you think you can shove me out? You think you can embarrass me in front of everyone?" He pointed to his group of friends, all of whom now avoided his gaze entirely. "These people came because I told them it was my house, my rules. And guess what? It is." "No," I said simply. That one word was enough. He snapped. He lunged. Not at me. Not at the security officers. But at Olivia. She didn't see it. Not until the last second. Not until his arm was already swinging downward. Reaching for the torn half of the picture she held to her chest as if protecting it would somehow protect herself. "Hey!" the officer shouted. They reacted instantly. Two strong arms intercepted Damien mid-motion. One officer grabbed his wrist, twisting it behind his back in a controlled but forceful restraint. The other blocked his torso, pushing him away from Olivia and pinning him against the nearest wall. Damien roared in outrage, thrashing violently. "Let go of me! Get your hands off me! You can't do this!" But the officers didn't budge. "You attempted to strike her," one of them said evenly. "You're being removed from the property for the safety of everyone present." "You're lying," Damien screamed. "I wasn't going to hit her. I was grabbing the picture. She stole it. That's my picture." "It was never your picture," I said quietly. His eyes, wild, furious, locked onto mine. "This is all your fault," he bellowed. "You made her like this. You turned her against me. You ruined everything." Olivia stood shakily, bloody fingertips clutching the broken photograph pieces. Tears streamed down her face, but her expression was no longer fear. It was heartbreak, and something deeper, the recognition of the man she had married, stripped of charm, stripped of excuses, revealed in his ugliest truth. She spoke softly, but with a steadiness that cut through all the noise. "No, Damien," she whispered. "You ruined everything. Not him. You." He froze. Her voice didn't waver. "You ruined us long before today. I was just too afraid to admit it." Damien's body sagged slightly, not from remorse, but from the realization that he had lost the one thing he believed he controlled completely. The officers tightened their hold. "Sir, we're escorting you outside. Cooperate or this escalates legally." He snarled but didn't fight further. The exhaustion, the collapse of his inflated ego was finally weighing him down. They dragged him toward the door. His friends scrambled after him, avoiding eye contact, quietly gathering their things. The morning sun illuminated their retreat, turning the scene into something almost surreal. Olivia stood in the middle of it all, holding the broken picture to her chest as if it were the last piece of her former life. When the door slammed behind Damien, the silence that followed was cold and heavy. I walked to her slowly. "Olivia," I whispered. She turned toward me, eyes red, hands shaking, shoulders trembling. And then her knees gave out. She collapsed into me with a sob so raw it pierced the entire room. I held her, feeling her break open against my chest, knowing this wasn't just grief. It was release. It was the first breath after years of suffocation. But as her tears soaked into my shirt, I didn't yet know. For several minutes after Damien was dragged out, the house remained frozen, as if everyone feared that even breathing too loudly might somehow shatter the fragile silence left behind. Olivia clung to me, her shoulders trembling against my chest. She wasn't crying out of heartbreak alone. She was crying out years of swallowed words, years of fear disguised as loyalty. Every sob carried the weight of a life lived with someone who had slowly convinced her she was too small to stand on her own. When her breathing finally steadied, she pulled back, wiping her cheeks with shaky fingers. Her eyes were swollen, but clear, clearer than I had seen them in a long time. "Dad?" she whispered. "I'm so sorry for all of this." "You don't need to apologize," I said softly. "You needed time. You woke up today. That's all that matters." Her chin trembled, but she nodded. Behind us, the Tanaka family stood respectfully aside. Mr. Tanaka bowed gently when our eyes met. "We will wait outside," he said. "Take whatever time you require." "Thank you," I murmured. Leo escorted them out to the patio, speaking to them in calm, reassuring tones. Evelyn remained inside, organizing documents with her usual composure. She knew better than to interrupt a moment this delicate. Olivia looked down at the torn photograph in her hands, the jagged tear splitting her wedding day in two, and exhaled shakily. "He ruined so much," she whispered, "and I kept letting him." "No," I said. "He ruined things. You survived them." Survival was a quiet skill, and she had perfected it. Her eyes flicked to the door, the one Damien had been shoved through minutes ago. "He's not going to go quietly," she murmured. "He never does." She wasn't wrong. From outside came the faint sound of shouting, not loud enough to understand the words, yet, but enough to know he was still out there, pacing like a wounded predator who had lost his territory. The security officers remained near him, firm but calm, ensuring he didn't re-enter the house. But the tension pulsed through the walls like static electricity. "He's humiliated," I said. "People do reckless things when their pride is wounded. But Damien doesn't just stew," she replied quietly. "He retaliates." Her voice cracked a little. "He's going to blame me for all of this." "He already does," I said gently. "But his blame isn't the truth." She swallowed hard, nodding. Evelyn approached then, her voice measured. "Olivia, sweetheart, we need to talk about immediate protections, financial and legal. I want you safe." Olivia's shoulders tensed. I can't deal with that right now." Evelyn placed a comforting hand on her arm. You don't have to deal with it alone. Just know you have options, and you have people who will help you. Olivia nodded but said nothing. Before we could speak more, the front door rattled. Violently. The house flinched. Then came Damien's voice, muffled but unmistakable. Olivia, open this damn door. Right now. The security officers barked a sharp command outside, but Damien bellowed again. You can't hide from me. Let me in. Olivia's breath hitched. She took a step backward, her hand pressing instinctively against her stomach as if bracing for impact. I moved in front of her without thinking. Evelyn, ever calm, picked up her phone subtly. Leo returned from the patio, face shifting from polite professionalism to immediate concern. We may need to involve law enforcement, he murmured. Olivia shook her head frantically. No police. Not yet. He'll say it was a misunderstanding. He'll twist everything. He always does. Then let's document everything, Evelyn said. Video, audio, timestamps. If he causes damage or threatens you, that becomes irrefutable. A loud thud shook the door again. I know you can hear me, Damien screamed. You think this is over? The officer's muffled commands grew more urgent. I felt Olivia trembling behind me, not because she was afraid of what he'd do, but because she was afraid of everything she thought this moment meant. I made him this way, she whispered. I kept staying. I kept excusing him. No, I said firmly. He made himself this way, and you surviving him doesn't make you responsible for him. She closed her eyes, tears threatening again. What if he hurts someone? She whispered. What if he hurts you? He won't get the chance, I said. Not this time. Outside, Damien shouted something incoherent, something drowned by the officer's stern warning. Then the unmistakable sound of something being thrown, a heavy object crashing against my porch railing. Olivia gasped. He's escalating, Evelyn said sharply. We need to act. Leo stepped closer. Mr. Miller, if you authorize us, we can remove him from the grounds entirely. I nodded once. Do it. As Leo stepped outside with the officers, Damien's voice rose again. This time sharper, more desperate, cracking under the weight of the situation. Olivia, if you walk away from me, you're going to regret it. That did it. Her face changed. Her fear evaporated. Her sadness crystallized into something steadier. Resolve. She straightened behind me and stepped forward. Not enough to be in sight, but enough to speak clearly. Her voice rang through the entryway. No, Damien, she said, loud enough for him and everyone else to hear. The only thing I regret is not leaving sooner. A stunned silence followed. Even Damien didn't speak. I watched Olivia exhale the longest breath of her life, like she had been underwater for years and finally surfaced. It should have ended there. But Damien Carter was not a man who accepted consequences. And as Leo stepped back inside moments later, his usually calm expression tightened with concern. He said the words I wasn't prepared for. Mr. Miller, Olivia, I'm so sorry to say this, but Damien isn't alone anymore. Olivia's face went pale. What do you mean? I asked. Leo swallowed hard. He called people. They're pulling up now. 3 cars. When Leo said the words he called people, the house seemed to exhale all at once, not with relief but with dread. Olivia's face drained of color. He wouldn't, she whispered, but she knew the truth before anyone else did. Damien wouldn't just throw a tantrum. He wouldn't simply walk away. He would escalate until anyone bent to his will. From the windows, we saw headlights cutting across the driveway like approaching predators. 1 car, then another, then a third. Engines idled with a low growl, vibrating through the stone floor of the entryway. Leo moved quickly, shutting the curtains and locking the interior doors. His calm professionalism never faltered, but I saw the tension in the line of his jaw. Evelyn snapped her briefcase shut and moved closer. The security officers, already outside, repositioned themselves defensively as shadows stepped out of the cars. Men, big ones, broad-shouldered, wearing sleeveless shirts and chain necklaces. One carried a bat. Another wore brass knuckles. A third flicked a knife open and shut in a slow, threatening rhythm. Olivia's breath caught. "I know them," she whispered. "They're his drinking buddies. The ones he uses when he wants to scare people." "Scare or hurt?" Evelyn asked sharply. Olivia swallowed. "Both." My stomach turned cold. Outside, Damien pointed wildly toward the house, pacing like a riled-up animal. "That's it," he shouted to his group. "He set me up. Olivia betrayed me. They all think they can kick us out. But we're not leaving. Not tonight, not ever." One of the men cracked his knuckles. Another spat into the gravel. A third stepped toward the security officers and smirked. "This your property?" he taunted. "Or is this old man renting it to you for the week?" The officer didn't move. "Step back. The situation is private and you're trespassing." "Is that so?" the man said, leaning in. "What happens if we don't?" Damien paced in circles, breathing hard. "He wants to call the cops," he sneered loudly. "But he won't, because he knows if he does, his daughter will be humiliated. And he's obsessed with protecting her, right? He won't risk making this public." Olivia's knees buckled slightly. "He's right," she whispered. "He'll weaponize anything. My name, my reputation. Just so he gets the last word." I placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe," I said softly. "You're here. You're not alone." But the truth was, I didn't know how safe we really were. Inside the living room, one of Damien's former party guests peeked anxiously through a crack in the curtain. "Dude," he muttered, "those guys aren't normal. They're drunk as hell. I'm not staying for whatever this is." Two others grabbed their backpacks and hurried toward the back exit, doing everything they could to avoid being seen by Damien. Cowards. But I didn't blame them. People who cheer when things are loud and wild disappear the moment consequences walk through the door. Leo stepped back inside after speaking quickly with the officers. "They'll try to de-escalate," he said. "But if Damien's friends push, it won't stay contained." "What do we do?" Olivia's voice trembled. "We keep calm," I said, "and we stay inside." Evelyn, however, was already on the phone. "No, I'm not requesting a wellness check," she said in a clipped tone. "I'm requesting an emergency property protection response. There are armed individuals trespassing and making threats." "Yes, I will hold." She covered the receiver and looked at me. "Police will come, but response time is unpredictable." Olivia's breath shook. "He's going to try to break in." Leo didn't deny it. Instead, he moved to every window and door, checking locks, drawing curtains, making sure no blind spot was visible. Through the frosted glass beside the front door, we saw silhouettes pacing, big, dark shapes. Their voices carried in muffled bursts. "Break the door." "He won't do anything." "What's he gonna do? Call the cops?" "Just scare him. At least bang the windows." Damien's voice rose above the others. "He thinks he's smarter than me. He thinks he can embarrass me. Watch this. Watch." Then, a loud, jarring bang rattled the front door. Olivia let out a small cry and covered her mouth. Another bang. Then a third, harder than before. "Open the door," Damien roared. "Or we'll make you open it." The officers outside shouted commands, but the men ignored them. Evelyn whispered urgently, "The police are en route. Estimated arrival, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes with a violent, drunken mob banging on my home. 10 minutes while Damien stoked their fury like a match thrown into gasoline. 10 minutes where anything could happen. Then, a shadow stepped directly in front of the frosted glass panel beside the door. A face. Damien's. He pressed his palms flat against the glass, staring in. His breathing fogged the surface. And then he saw her. Olivia. Her silhouette behind me. His expression twisted. "You think you're safe?" he shouted. "You think you can hide behind him? You're mine, Olivia." Her entire body flinched. I stepped fully between them. "Leave. Now." He laughed. A horrible crack sound. "Or what?" he taunted. "You can't keep her forever." When I get in there. You're not getting in here, I said. He slammed his palm against the glass again. You can't stop me. The officers moved in to restrain him, but he fought like a man intoxicated with rage. One officer grabbed his arm. Another tried to pull him back, but one of Damien's friends shoved the officer aside. Then, the worst thing yet, the man with the bat stepped forward and raised it high. Move, he shouted at Damien. I'll get us in. Olivia screamed, and oh! The bat swung down hard, toward the window. The bat struck the glass with a force that felt like a bomb detonating inside my home. The window didn't simply crack. It burst, shards spraying inward like a storm of razors. Olivia screamed and covered her head. Evelyn grabbed her arm and dragged her back. Leo pulled me behind the hallway wall. The security officers outside lunged, tackling the man with the bat. One pinned him to the gravel. The other held back the remaining two men as Damien shrieked like a wounded animal. You idiots, he bellowed. I said scare them, not get arrested. But the man with the bat was too drunk and furious to care about the difference. He kicked wildly at the officer restraining him. You think you can tell me what to do? He roared. He threatened my boy. He threatened Damien. They started this. His friends charged forward. The officers fought to hold them back. It was chaos, raw, violent, unhinged chaos on my front porch. Pieces of glass littered the floor inside like glittering ice. A cold gust of air blew through the smashed window, carrying with it Damien's rage-filled voice. You think you win because you got money? Because you got lawyers? I'll burn this place to the ground before I let you take her from me. Leo's jaw tightened. This is no longer trespassing, he said. It's a threat of arson and harm. I'm calling for immediate police backup. Evelyn's face had drained of color. The response time is still several minutes. We need to get everyone away from the front. Now, another bang, this time on the door itself. Someone had kicked it. Hard. Olivia flinched. He's going to break in, Dad, he's going to break in. He won't, I said firmly, but my voice was thinner than I liked. Another kick. The door shuddered. The frame cracked audibly. Move, Leo shouted. Hallway now. We retreated quickly. Me shielding Olivia. Evelyn behind us. Leo pulling us toward the back of the house. But the pounding grew louder. More frantic. Unhinged. You don't get to keep her. Open this door or I swear. Damien, stop. You're going to. Shut up. All of you shut up. His voice blended with the chaos outside. Vehicles revving. Men shouting. Officers issuing warnings. It felt like the entire world was collapsing into the entryway of my home. Inside, my heart pounded against my ribs like a fist trying to escape. Olivia pressed against me, trembling. This is my fault. This is all my fault. Olivia, look at me, I said firmly, turning to her. None of this is your fault. Damien chooses his actions. Damien escalates. Damien is dangerous. Not you. She shook her head violently. I should have left him years ago. You left him today? I said softly, cupping her cheek. Today is the first day you chose yourself. Her breathing steadied, but only for a moment. Because then, crack, the front door's lock snapped. Leo spun around. Get back. Far back. We rushed into the interior hallway just as the door burst inward a few inches before the officers shoved it shut from the other side. The force of the impact rattled the walls. One of Damien's men yelled, Take the hinges! Pull it off! Olivia covered her mouth again, tears filling her eyes. He's not going to stop, Dad. He's not going to stop until... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. We all knew what she meant. Damien wasn't trying to scare us anymore. He was trying to regain ownership, over the situation, over the house, over her. Leo looked at me with an urgency I'd never seen on his face. Mr. Miller, we need to retreat to the back exit. Now. Police will be here soon, Evelyn said, checking her phone again. They won't get here before that door comes down, Leo countered. He wasn't exaggerating. The hinges groaned under each blow like metal being twisted in a vise. Another crash. Another scream. Another horrific, rage-fueled threat from Damien. Olivia! Come out here or so help me. Her breath broke like glass. I grabbed her hand. Come on. We're leaving the front. We'll take the garden path to safety. But before we could move, a noise cut through the chaos. A noise that froze all of us in place. Gunfire. A single shot. Loud. Close. Explosive. It wasn't from the police. The police weren't here yet. The officers outside dove for cover. Someone screamed. The gunshot echoed off the stone patio again and again like a ricochet of pure terror. Olivia went white as bone. "Oh my God!" she whispered. "Oh my God, Damien. He didn't. Did he?" I grabbed both her shoulders. "Stay with me. We're getting out of here. Now." Leo whispered urgently. "He's armed. We need to get everyone behind walls immediately." Another bang at the door. A shout. Footsteps running. A second scream. Evelyn pulled Olivia close, shielding her with surprising fierceness. "We're going. Back of the house. Now." Leo peeked around the corner for a half-second, then yanked back. "They're pushing past the officers," he said. "One of them is bleeding. We have seconds, maybe less." Every instinct I had roared at me. Protect Olivia. Protect this house. Protect the trust Carol left behind. But this was beyond property. Beyond dignity. Beyond argument or legality. Damien had crossed into something darker. Something criminal, something desperate, something deadly. And we were still inside the house he was trying to break into. I grabbed Olivia's hand again and locked eyes with her. "You're walking out of this," I said. "I promise." Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. We ran toward the back hallway, but just before we rounded the corner, a shadow moved across the broken glass at the front. A figure, stepping inside, slowly, steadily, confidently, and in his hand, gleaming under the dim interior light, was a pistol. Damien had entered the house. Damien's silhouette filled the shattered doorway, a jagged outline framed by broken glass and the pale spill of outdoor light. He stepped inside as if he owned the oxygen in the room. Slow, uneven footsteps, chest heaving, eyes burning with the kind of rage that forgets consequences. But it wasn't his entrance that turned my blood to ice. It was the object in his hand. Pistol. Black. Metallic. Gripped far too tightly. Olivia choked on her breath. Evelyn froze behind her like a mother shielding a child from a wildfire. Leo stepped between us, but his eyes flicked to the gun and registered the danger instantly. Outside, one security officer, injured, wounded, called for backup. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, approaching but not nearly fast enough. Damien raised the gun a fraction. "Nobody moves," he hissed. His voice was low, not shouting now. Not wild. Low. Controlled. That was worse. "Damien," I said quietly, "put the gun down." He took a step forward, boots crunching over broken glass. "You think you won?" he asked, voice trembling. "You think you can humiliate me? Kick me out? Take everything from me? After everything I built with her? After everything I did? You did nothing for her?" Olivia whispered, her voice breaking. "You did everything to her." His eyes snapped toward her. "Don't you dare talk to me like that," he snarled, taking another step. Leo held up a hand. "Sir, drop the weapon." "Shut up," Damien barked. "This isn't your business." Darkness swallowed whatever sanity he had left. He lifted the gun fully now, pointing it between Olivia and me, torn between the two targets as if deciding which life was easier to blame for his own failures. "Damien," I said slowly, stepping just an inch forward. "Listen to me." "Stop walking," he screamed. I froze. The barrel steadied on me. Olivia broke. "Damien, please," she cried. "Don't do this. Don't throw your life away." "My life?" he spat. "You already ruined my life." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "No, Damien. You ruined your life. And you almost ruined mine. I'm done being afraid of you." His face twisted, hatred burning hotter. "Don't talk back to me," he growled. And then he shifted the gun toward her. Every molecule of air inside me snapped. No! I barked, moving without thinking. Leo lunged. Evelyn screamed. Olivia gasped and stepped backward. Damien jerked the gun toward me again, finger tightening around the trigger. "Stay back!" he roared. Outside sirens grew louder. Doors slammed. Boots hit gravel. The police had finally arrived. But Damien didn't hear them, didn't care. His world had narrowed to one moment, one target, one final desperate attempt to reclaim the control slipping from his fingers. He pointed the gun at my chest. "I should have been the man of this family," he said lowly. "But you always stood in my way." I met his eyes. "You're not a man," I whispered. "You're a scared bully with a gun." That sentence snapped the last thread holding him together. His hand shook. His finger twitched. And then, a voice thundered from behind him. "Drop the weapon. Now!" Police. Multiple officers flooded the entrance, guns drawn, shouting commands. But Damien didn't lower the pistol. Instead, he turned the barrel toward Olivia again. Her scream tore from her throat. The world narrowed to milliseconds. I moved. Leo moved. Police moved. But someone else moved first. Olivia. She stepped in front of me, hands outstretched, voice breaking. "Damien, stop. Stop before you do something you can't take back." Her bravery shocked even him. He froze, just for a moment, staring at her like he no longer recognized the woman in front of him. Her shoulders shook with fear, but she stood tall. "You don't own me," she whispered. "Not anymore." That moment of hesitation, that fracture in his fury, was all the officers needed. Weapon down. Damien whipped around, but the officer closest to him fired first. A rubber bullet. Non-lethal, but enough. It struck Damien's wrist with brutal force. He screamed, the gun flying from his hand and skidding across the floor. In seconds, he was tackled, pinned, cuffed. His rage collapsed into broken sobs and snarled curses as officers hauled him upright. "You set me up?" he roared at Olivia. "You betrayed me. You'll pay for this." But she didn't cry this time. She didn't tremble. She simply stared at him with the sadness of someone grieving a person who died long before this night. "No," she said softly. "You did this to yourself." The officers dragged him outside as his shouting faded into the distance. Silence fell inside the house. Heavy, echoing, surreal. Broken glass glittered across the floor. A cold wind swept through the shattered window. The smell of fear and adrenaline clung to the air. And then, Olivia collapsed into me, sobbing, not with terror anymore, but with release. "I'm free," she whispered. "Oh God, Dad, I'm free." I held her tightly, feeling her heart pound against mine, feeling the years of pain she had endured spill out in tears, feeling my own chest tremble with relief I hadn't dared hope for. Leo exhaled deeply, shoulders sinking. Evelyn wiped her eyes when she thought no one was looking. For a long moment, none of us spoke. There was nothing to say. The storm was over. Epilogue 3 months later. Olivia lived with me for a while. She got therapy. She filed for divorce. She found a job she loved. She rediscovered pieces of herself Damien had buried. And one morning, sitting on the patio with the ocean stretching peacefully ahead, she said, "Mom would have been proud of us." I smiled softly. She always was. We planted a small lavender bush in the garden for Carol, for healing, for new beginnings. And for the first time in years, my home was quiet again. Not empty, not hollow, peaceful. Just as my wife once asked me to make it. "Just tell me what you want next."